The world is full of strange happenings. Today we're bringing you a bizarre collection of stories that will make you wonder what is real, all on today's top 10 list. Coming in number 10, we have stargazing. Two friends are camping and they're looking up at the stars. One of them sees a shooting star. It was pretty cool, but they didn't think much of it. At this point it was almost 2 a.m., so they thought they should probably pack it up for the night. They put out the fire and they're ready to head to their tent, and then they heard something weird in the bushes. It sounded like crunching leaves. Then one of them looked over and screamed. They saw a pair of glowing eyes that were low to the ground looking back at them. One of the two isn't so scared, so they approached it. It's some sort of creature. It was small and fluffy. It looked to have antenna that was coming out of its head. It was making a small purring noise like a cat. It's not like anything either of them had seen before. They shine a flashlight on it and they can see it has purple fur all over its body. Neither of them had seen a purple animal before. One of them picks it up and it keeps making this purring noise, but now its antennas are perked up and vibrating. It sounded like the small hum of a bee. They were so caught up in looking at what seemed to be an alien that they didn't hear it until it was right behind them. A loud vibrating noise. It sounded like a power drill. There were more of these things, and some of them were much bigger and salivating. Coming in at number 9, we have second sight. Ever since Mary was a kid, she could hear voices. She never told anyone she didn't want people to think she was crazy, but sometimes she would listen. She would always listen to the one named Frederick. She always knew he would help keep her safe. She didn't know why she trusted him, but she always knew in her heart that she should. One day, when she was going through some old photos with her mom, she saw someone she didn't recognize. She asked her mom who that was, and she told her that was her great-grandfather, Frederick. He will always take care of you. How did her mom know? Did you hear the voices too? Coming in at number 8, we have contact. Conspiracy theories can get out of hand, and when you're chasing them, people will think you're crazy, and for the most part, they are right. But for our next story, maybe our conspirator was onto something. He was deep into aliens. He wanted to know everything about them, and every time there was word that aliens were around, he would travel to get all the information he could. He was putting together a case to prove that they were real. Everything was coming together. Then he had a breakthrough. He had been interviewing people about aliens for years, and a lot of them had the same story. When they would see aliens, they would hear a code, not in their ears. It was like the code was being spoken in their mind. It was always the same code, C038Y45FF. Forever, this was a mystery, but then there was a breakthrough. He cracked the code. They were coordinates to somewhere in the middle of the Nevada desert. Tomorrow, he would venture out there and find out what was hidden out in the desert. But that night, something happened that he didn't expect. Visitors came to his home. Two men in black suits showed up at his front door. They told him to stop. They told him that if he went out to the desert, it would be the last thing he ever did. Then he passed out and woke up in bed. Did that encounter really happen? No matter what, it scared him away from researching whatever was hidden in the desert. Coming in at number 7, we have the curse. A couple's walking past a homeless man. He asked them for some money, and they reject him. Not only this, but they ridicule him for being homeless. He turns to them and says, "Come to you as has come to me." They thought this was just a crazy old man in the street, but they would soon learn that that wasn't the case. Over the next 3 years, the two of them broke up and lost everything. Slowly but surely, every bit of their life fell apart until they met up at a soup kitchen because it was the only place they could get food. And sure enough, there was the old man who said, "Welcome." Coming in at number 6, we have message through the computer. It's late on a Friday night and Jessie was up late playing video games. She wanted to relax after a long week of work. She gets a notification that someone sent her a message. This was very strange because she had her status set to offline. She just wanted to be left alone that night. She then got more messages. She decided to check them out and something very strange was happening. The messages were coming from someone who had the same username as her, but that's impossible. You can only have one username. She read it at least a dozen times. It must have been a glitch. But what was more concerning were the messages. They were telling her to get out of the house, that someone was going to break in. This was so creepy that she checked her door to make sure it was locked, and then got her phone ready to call the police. Then she heard a loud bang coming from her back door. A message popped up on her screen that said, "Run out the front door." She bolted and ran into the street. She kept running until she felt safe and then called the police. They came through, but by the time they got there, the attacker was gone. When she went back to check these messages, they were also all gone, but she remembered them being sent. Who was this person who warned her? Coming in at number 5, we have Heart to Heart. A young girl recently lost her brother. He was in the hospital sick, but the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with him before he passed. The young girl, who was only 10 at the time, said to her mom, "I think he had a hole in his heart." The family brushed this off because it was probably just a young girl talking about how he didn't have enough love or something mystical as she tried to cope with her brother passing. Later that week, the hospital contacted the family to tell them that the reason the boy had passed was because of an an arterial septal defect, which is indeed a hole in the heart. Coming in at number 4, we have the switch. Stacy was a volunteer at an old folks home. She loved helping people in need. There was one old lady who had a strange aura about her. She couldn't put her finger on it, but she knew something was off. She didn't mind helping her though, and she was the only one who did because everyone else could feel this strange vibe, and it was for good reason. One night after she put this old woman to bed, the lady asked her if she could read her a line from her diary. It was in a strange language. It must have been Latin or something, but she did her best to sound it out. When she finished the line, she passed out and woke up in the old woman's bed, but she felt weak. She felt sick. She looked at her hands and they were old and wrinkly. She looked in the mirror and she saw the old woman's face. What did she just read? Coming in at number 3, we have Watch Your Drink. Here's a classic one. A young man is traveling in some far off country. He's at a bar drinking without a worry in the world. He didn't eat earlier that day, which is a terrible idea if you're going to spend the night trying to get super drunk. Well, he might have had one too many drinks, or maybe someone put something in his drink because he blacked out. He doesn't remember anything, which is going to turn into the worst situation he had ever been in. When he wakes up, the first thing he notices is that he's cold. Why on earth is it so cold? Where did he fall asleep? He looks around the room and it looks like he's in a bathroom, but it's not the one from his hotel room. Then he looks down and he sees that he's covered in ice inside a bathtub. What the hell was this? Was this some sort of prank? Then the pain. It feels like he's been stabbed in the back. He pulls himself out of the tub, but he barely has enough energy to get up. Then he sees a note next to the tub that says, "We took your kidney. Go to the hospital or you will die." That's a story that will make you miss traveling a little bit less. Coming in at number 2, we have The Fortune. A young girl is at a carnival and she's walking through with her boyfriend. She comes across a tent that says fortune teller. She loves psychics, but her boyfriend really isn't into it, so she heads down to see the mystic all on her own. She sits down across from a fairly normal looking woman and the lady asks her for her hand. She starts to look at her hand and run her finger across her lifeline, and then she gasps. The fortune teller says her, "Whatever you do, don't get into a car with that boy. He's not what he seems." The girl is shocked, but she doesn't really think much of it. What could a fortune teller at a carnival really know? She leaves and meets up with her boyfriend, and the two walk around for a little bit longer before it's time to head home. Then right before she's about to get in the car with him, she gets a weird feeling. She says, "I'm gonna walk home tonight." Her boyfriend freaks out. They get in a huge fight, and then he leaves her there. They ended up breaking up over the phone that night. A week later, she sees his face in the newspaper because a girl's body was found in his basement. Coming in at number 1, we have the SILKMAN. The person who wrote this story said that they had a very weird thing happen to them when they were at the mall. There was a little kiosk in the mall, those ones that seem like they're pop-ups, and there's either a dude there who doesn't want you to talk to him so he can get through his shift without anyone trying to get anything from him, or there's a guy there who is way too hands-on and tries you to smell every perfume he's got. Well, our writer said that this guy was like neither one of these people. He was just sitting in a chair surrounded by strange silks, and he was staring at him as he was walking by. He didn't even look at the man, and he could tell that he was staring at him the whole time. He could just feel it. So he turned and he looked, and for some reason our Redditor was drawn to this kiosk. He walked up to the guy and said, "Oh, so what do you have for sale?" And the man just handed him a locket, said nothing, and kept staring at him. Our writer was sufficiently creeped out and he saw this as a good time to leave. So he decided that he was going to walk around for a little bit, and then he felt a burning in his hand where he was holding the locket. He looked at it and there was a rash that had broken out. He rushed back to the kiosk, but the guy was gone. Then he felt a pain in his chest and he dropped to the ground. He woke up in the hospital and one of his hands had been amputated. The doctor said that it was decaying and spreading to the rest of his body, so they had to cut it off. Alright guys, that has been our list. Thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, I would love it if you could like, comment, subscribe, and hit the little notification bell. Until next time, I've been your host, Jade Arena, and keep enjoying this content.